Calvin Castine at Northeastern Clinton Central School for our annual look at the Northeastern Clinton Central School proposed budget, up close and personal. And this is the last time we're going to be doing it with this young fellow on my right, Mr. Christopher DeGrandpre, the Superintendent of Schools since what year?
1979, Calvin.
It's getting to be a long time.
Around 24 years.
And this year, Chris is going to become one of the retired folks, and he'll be handing over the reins to a former Champlainer. I know his last name is Hebert, but
It's Mr. Robert Hebert, who'll be coming aboard on July 5th. Actually, he'll be here starting Monday of next week, the 2nd of June, and he and I will work together for about a month as a transition to him taking office on July 5th.
you won't show him the scary parts. You'll just let him learn after you left, right?
Right.
All right, and his father's name was always pronounced Hebert, but I know when he got to that generation, I know his brother George, or I used to know his brother George. It was always Hebert, but the Frank Hebert, and they just lived just down the road a piece from here.
Yes.
So it's a homecoming for Robert Hebert. Okay, we're here to talk about the proposed budget, and a whole lot of things have happened since January 1st. The state has finally come up with some figures, and what I'm going to do now is move off camera, let Chris go through the budget, and then after that we'll come back, and if I'm able to come up with any questions, we'll have some questions on what we've just learned. Anything else you want to tell us before we get into the...
Well, you have some materials in front of you, Calvin, and maybe just to help the viewer, the blue document that we're holding here is called the Popular Budget. It's a summary of the proposed expenses for the 2003-2004 school year, and there's some other important information in there for voter consideration. What you have in your hands...
I should point, you're hoping
okay.
that that's the popular budget.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. But the official name is, whether it's popular or not, is the popular budget.
Yes, we refer to this as the Popular Budget booklet.
Okay.
Okay. And this is the more lengthy version. This is a detailed budget as presented to our board, and of course it would be presented to the voters on June 3rd. And there's probably more than you ever wanted to know about school budgets in this document. And you'll note this year that there's an insert because the original document was prepared before the state budget was completed. So there are some revisions that you'll note inside what we call a School Business Management 1 budget document. And also you can find in this particular booklet a copy of the Comprehensive School Report Card. So that's available in every building, and it will be available at the polling places on the 3rd of June.
So if people do want their personal copy, they can get it.
Yes, they can. They can call any of the principal's offices or the district office, and we have a limited copy, meaning 250 or so of them, but we certainly would make one available to anybody who would care to have one.
Okay.
Whereas we printed perhaps 3,500 of these.
Those are
documents.
convenience stores.
Right, they're at 15 or 20 locations around the school district, and again, if they're available at each school, and if anybody is unable to locate one, we'd be more than happy to either mail one or see that they get one for their personal use.
All right. As a St. Mary's graduate, I'm very glad to see it as nice blue color. But maybe next year I'll suggest to the new superintendent that they go maroon.
Maroon? Well,
For the Cougar colors.
We've done that in the past. Last year it was a gray document, and we changed the color from year to year, just differentiate from one year to the next.
All right.
Okay. And do you want to chat about the budget notice, as long as you have it right in front of you?
Okay. Okay. Everybody in the area has gotten one. Everybody in the voting district has gotten this.
Yes, one went to every home, and it's a requirement of the state 6 days before the vote that the budget notice be sent to each home.
Okay, now it's sent to the residents, so it's possible that some people, like on Route 9 in Champlain, where they're in the Shazy district, by Barcomb's TV and so on, some non-residents have also got, some non-voters also got?
It is possible, but we've been pretty careful to work with the post office to try to get these into all of the Northeastern Clinton Central School District residences, but it's possible that a few might have gotten to
Must be particularly
residences.
tricky up in the Scioto area, where it's a West Shays emailing area, so you only got a small portion, but the post office works with you on that?
Yes, they do,
Okay.
and do a nice job for us.
Okay, so if you got this, follow along at home, but you should have had it when
Okay.
when you were tuned in here. Okay. The proposed budget for the, I'm gonna assume that I know what I'm talking about till I hear otherwise here.
If we're going to chat about this, perhaps we could put a copy of it up on the screen so that everybody could take a look at it?
Does Sheila have a copy of that? Okay,
Yes.
let me rearrange the camera and we'll do that.
Want to do that?
Okay.
Well, very good.
Okay, Chris, I've kind of zoomed in so that people don't see what's written on the left portion, because that way the numbers will show up better rather than try to get the whole thing in the picture. So when we talk about a line, we'll mention which line it is, and might as well start with the top line, the proposed budget for the year,
Well,
20 million.
Yes, but to the left is the current year's budget, $19,601,910. So the budget proposed for the coming year, 2003-2004, is in the amount of $20,587,670. The line to the right of that, described as contingency budget for 2003-2004 school year, is the sum of $20,011,516. So, as required by the State of Education Department in the state of New York, we're describing what the current year's budget is, what the proposed budget is, and if the voters did not approve the budget after the second time and we were required to go on a contingency budget, that would be the sum that the budget could increase over the current year.
Okay. So what you're saying is, in the event that this first proposed budget would be defeated, it's possible that the board could go back to the voters one more time before going to contingency budget.
That's correct.
The contingency budget is really kind of discretionary to some extent by the board, and the board has chosen here that contingency budget to go down to that 20 million figure would have to include eliminating kindergarten, all sports programs.
Well, it's not really all that discretionary. Let me review some materials with you
Well,
on
we've
this,
had
Cal.
well, let me just
Yeah.
we've had contingency budgets in the past,
Yes.
and it didn't eliminate kindergarten, so
Right. Well, some of the rules have changed over the years, and we do have some documentation that we could share with the community if they would wish to see it. Actually, we could do it as a part of our presentation today. In a nutshell, we're now limited by some state regulations that would allow us only to increase the budget by the Consumer Price Index, which is about 1.6%. Plus, you can put 20% on top of that for about 1.92% increase over the current year.
20% of the 1 point.
Beyond the 1.6,
Right.
yeah. So that gives you about a 2% increase, and if you'll note in the far right
Yes.
column, 2.1.
Third line, right?
Yeah, the reason for that is that some expenses, non-reoccurring expenses and so on, debt service, can be pulled out of the initial number, so that it does allow you to go up a little over the 1.92%, just a little bit, 2.1% increase in the budget over the current year. And if you'll note back in the middle column, the proposed budget is an increase of 5% over current year expenses.
That's the total budget. That
Over the
is-
current year, I should say.
Right, that has nothing to do with the tax rate, that's the actual budget, that includes the tax rate and what we're getting from the state aid.
Well, it's the appropriations. The
Right.
5% represents the appropriations or the proposed expenditures for next year. That's
Right.
the 5%.
Right.
Under a contingent budget, that could only go up 2.1%.
Right, but that is not a 2.1% tax increase, what I'm saying.
That's correct.
Or the 5% tax increase. It's an increase in the school budget
That's true.
overall, which includes state aid, which includes everything that would give you revenue, which is basically state aid and taxes. So
Yes.
there's a couple other small ways to get aid, selling your hay or whatever.
That's correct. That's right. All right, so there's the consumer price index at 1.6. And you notice that in the middle column, where under the area where it says budget proposed for 2003, 2004. And then, if you'll note the next line, resulting estimated property tax for the 2003-2004 school year. Well, that's $8,212,616. If we were to go to a contingent budget, required to go to a contingent budget, that the levy would be in the amount of $7,636,462, which is quite a bit less than the proposed budget and the levy that is attributable to it. So,
Now, is there any reason, I realize that what the line says, proposed tax for 2003, 2004, but that could have been worded so that you could include under the 2002, 2003 budget, something that would indicate the amount that was raised last year's levy.
well,
You'd have to reword it, but
yes, and this is a format that's given to us by the state of New York. So we adhere to it as closely as we possibly can.
do you know what the figure was
The levy for
last year? I'm sure
for the current year?
I'm sure Sheila Miller, who was running that projector, the answer lady.
Okay.
And we have our answer. It's
$8,212,616
that's this year's.
for the current year. Excuse me,
No,
just one.
that's proposed.
Just
for the-
wait 1 second now. I'm just looking at my.
Yeah.
Bear with me 1 second, so I make sure I give the right year.
Yeah, that's proposed for this year. So.
Yep. So it's going to be $7,679,874.
Seven.
$7,679,874.88.
Which is actually less than the contingency budget, slightly more than the contingency budget. 7,679,000, which is slightly more than the contingency budget.
That's true. That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Next is administrative component.
All right.
I assume that whole 1.7 million doesn't include just your salary in there? Includes Sheila's and a few other people?
It sure does. It includes a whole range of items that would be found in the budget. Each code that is considered administrative component.
The principals and running their offices?
That's right.
How about guidance? Is guidance part of that?
Probably not guidance, no.
Okay.
No. But anything the state considers to be attributable to that area must be included in that particular number.
Okay. Okay, program component, I assume that's the actual education portion. What's the
Yeah.
capital component?
Well, that would be debt service and other related items.
Debt service meaning interest on loans and loans. We've got to
The principal and interest
rebuilding.
payments on the construction projects, debt service for the financing of school buses.
Okay, so there's only about a $50,000 difference there between the contingency and the proposed budget. Down below is where I really got kind of confused, where it says the star savings on $100,000 valuation.
You really have to look down the various lines on this one. $681.90 would be the
That would be last year's.
this would be 0203 tax, and then the decrease or increase is $248. So the savings is $433.90 according to that.
I'm not quite sure what school tax increase, that must mean, I don't know what that means. Do we want to get back to that?
Do we want to get back to it?
Yeah.
You mean for,
The 248.
well, we're going to be talking about that in just a few minutes when we go through the budget. And actually, when you see it
I
here,
can see you subtract it, you get the 433, and then on the other line, you
yeah,
subtract the 48 from the 696, and you get the 648. I assume that's probably the savings for Star, that your whole tax bill, but that isn't what it says, so I don't know.
well, again, this is what's used
Right,
as a
so-
format. But let me,
I don't want to get you off guard here.
You know-
Do you want to figure this off camera and then
well,
come back with an answer?
I'm going to be explaining it when we do that part of it relating to school taxes
Okay.
in a few minutes.
Well, what I'll do is I'll let you explain it, and if it's not clear to me...
Then you'll
when we-
have another question.
Then we'll follow up on it,
That's
rather than
just
go
fine.
through it now, if you're going to be
Okay.
explaining it. Okay?
I sure will.
All right, so we go on to the first slide, or is there something more you want to talk about with this form?
Not as far as I'm concerned on the budget notice. We'll probably be coming back to that in a few minutes.
Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one who was confused with this. Is there some place besides, this isn't something that the Northeastern Clinton Central School District came up with on this form. Is there some
Correct.
place we could complain about besides to you?
Well, probably to the State Education Department. We'd be glad to entertain any concerns anybody has about it and pass them along to the State Education Department, but they certainly could call the New York State Education Department, Educational Management Services, if they had a concern or a suggestion about it.
Okay. Shall we get to the slides?
Sure.
All right.
I'll begin by just making a comment about where we started with this budget development process and where we are today after several months of hard work on the part of board members and staff and lots of input from the community relative to the budget proposal that was presented to the Board of Education for their approval and now goes to the voters for their consideration. We started out with about a 24% increase in taxes and an 8.8% increase in the proposed budget. And after a community forum and many budget meetings during the months of January, February, and March, we were able to get the tax increase down to about 10.5%. And then a number of things happened fairly quickly. The assessments on property were shared with us, and I can tell you that the increase in the assessments is $23.9 million in new assessments. Also, we're going to get a substantial increase relative to many other districts in state aid. We're going to be using $400,000 approximately in new state aid as revenue to the district in the building of this proposal for next year. And that will result in an estimated tax increase of about 2.1% using $16 million of the $23.9 million in new assessments. Why would we only use the $16 million? Because once grievance day or days come and go, there may be a few adjustments in the assessments which would bring the $23.9 million down a little bit. Plus, the district has a number of tax certiorari proceedings in progress. One or more of them could reduce this increase in the assessments significantly. And so we think the $16 million that has been used is an appropriate level so that we're not overestimating the amount of possible impact on the on the individual taxes for next year. So we're being conservative in that regard. The good news is that the budget is proposed is an increase of 5%, down from the 8.8, and taxes are estimated to increase for next year about 2.1%. The existing tax rate is $22.73, and it's estimated that it'll increase to $23.21. So after a lot of hard work and some good fortune, really, with the assessments, depending on how you look at it, and also the increase in state aid, what started out to be very ominous is turning out to be only a small increase as far as the estimated tax rate increase goes. Now, it didn't come without a price, though. We have had to make a lot of adjustments to the proposal, and we are going to have to scale back our staffing for next year and some of our programs. I think it's fair to say, though, that the impact on the children is small by comparison of what it could have been. And so we're feeling positive about that, because as we began to build this budget, we were looking at a number of additional cuts that we have not had to make. Everybody is aware that as a part of this proposal, there is the closing of the Champlain Elementary School. People have been very good about attending the informational sessions and also the budget development workshops, and we are reducing our professional staff by 5 elementary positions, 1 librarian, 1 special ed positions, a custodial worker, a secretary, reducing by 1 administrative position. There are some small increases in staffing in specific areas. We had a 4/5 cut in the middle high school among the various content areas, but we also are increasing by about 2/5 of a position, about 40% of a position in science, and a small increase in social studies. So there are some increases in staffing, and that's attributable to the higher standards in New York State and enrollment. So as we get started, that's a little bit of an introduction, and I'm going to ask Sheila if she would move to the next overhead. Yeah, we'll go to the appropriations. Okay. Now I'm going to touch on the high points, and of course, Calvin, if you have any questions, please ask if I'm not clear enough. The first area of what I would call substantial increase has to do with central administration, where the increase is from $188,666 to $236,787. And the increase there is attributable to a non-reoccurring retirement benefit, which will occur in the new school year, beginning of the new school year. In the next area, business administration, we have an increase from $182,557 to $221,578. This will be the first year that we had the school business administrator aboard full-time. The business administrator came to work beginning in January of 2003. So that was only part of a year. Also, there's some additional expenses as we look forward for software updates for the business offices, and an increase in expenses for the health insurance consortium. This is the group that oversees our health insurance program, not only here at Northeastern Clinton, but among the 17 school districts in the Clinton, Essex, Warren, Washington, BOCES. Now I'm going to move down and look at operation and maintenance for a moment. And you'll note that the current year's budget is $1,189,523, about a 6.3% looking forward. The number proposed for next year is $1,265,431. That's an increase of $75,908. And the increases are attributable to increases in fuel cost, electricity, salary adjustments, and our proposal to take advantage of a state education department program where we can apply to do $100,000 worth of work annually and be reimbursed the following year at our aid ratio, which is about 95% when you take into consideration all the factors. So that's on those lines that I've just described to you under operation and maintenance. And what we plan to do over at Moore's Elementary, if the budget is approved, is to replace some components in the boiler system over there at the school. Now I'll move down a little further to special items. Well, there are a variety of areas included here, and I'd just like to refer to 2 or 3 of the areas where I noted an increase. Under special items, the current year's budget is $258,318, and that increases to $266,148. Now, there are probably 3 areas here that we're addressing with the increase. One is the BOCES administrative budget is up a little bit, including the capital component. In addition to that, our legal services have increased over the last 2 or 3 years, so we're taking that into consideration. And additionally, there's an increase projected in the liability and umbrella parts of our insurance program. Recently, we just opened quotes, and in fact, within a day or so, we're going to be receiving a recommendation from the consultant for liability coverage for the coming year. So that's an explanation for that area of the budget. The total general support area of the school budget increases 9% over the current year. And now we'll move to instruction. Now you'll note under supervision, which is the second line down, supervision, regular school. The current year's budget is $614,902, and projected for next year a lower sum, $524,175. This all relates in one way or another to the closing of the Champlain Elementary School. So we'd be down 1 building administrator, 1 secretary, 1 custodial worker, and there are some other savings attributable to this area of the budget. Under teaching, regular school, the current year's budget, $6,309,256, increases by about $33,000 for the coming year to $6,343,019. It's less than a 1% increase. And I alluded to it just a few minutes ago. We will be having some reductions in staffing at the elementary level. I noted some other savings too, but they're attributable to the special education area or other areas in the budget. So that's part of the reason for the lower than normal increase under teaching regular school. Now if you look down on the next line, programs for children with handicapping conditions, you'll note the following. The current year's budget of $2,995,533, then the proposed $3,516,602. Well, that's a $521,069 increase over the current year, or a 17% increase. And we've had the question a number of times as to why such a significant increase. Well, it has to do with the number of students enrolled in special education programs at Northeastern Clinton. That number is increasing, and the number of students who are attending specialized programs at Champlain Valley Educational Services, that number has increased, and The increases are attributable to programs and services that are required for children who have special needs. Now, down below, on the next line, you'll note occupational education. We have approximately 50 students who participate in about 25 different programs at Champlain Valley Educational Services, CV Tech. Now, the current year's budget is $346,352, and it's expected to increase to $360,540. The tuition is up about 5% over the current year. Now, teaching special schools. That's our summer school program and adult education program. We've had many a discussion about the summer school and whether we would conduct a full summer school this year. And the decision in the context of the budget proposal was to offer a limited summer school program in July and August. The current year's budget, $45,008, reflects the approximate cost for operating the summer school on a full-time basis. It's between $40,000 and $45,000. And we're offering to the voters the possibility of a limited high school program at $19,276. Some of the cost attributable to the summer school we're hoping to offset with a grant. So it'll probably be about a $29,000 program, but $19,276 would be general fund expense. We're also hoping that it may be possible to find enough grant money to do one section of grade 6, grade 7, and grade 8, but as we are visiting here today, that has not been determined yet. Okay, school library and audio visual. This is the area in the budget where school library services are considered. The current year's budget is $202,986, and the proposal for next year is to reduce that sum to $162,419. The impact there is one fewer school media specialist library, one librarian, and one teacher aide who's assigned to the library. That's where the reduction is in those two positions. Computer assisted instruction. We're anticipating a reduction in this area of about $32,286. The current year's budget being $220,232, going down to $187,376. What's involved here are two things that come to mind. First, the T1 line for the computers at the Champlain Elementary School. These T1 lines are very expensive, and so there'll be a savings there. And also, we're going to try to effect computer repairs that have to go out. We're going to try to do that in a different way for next year to see if we can't save some money. Under guidance, the current year's budget shows $349,496 with a proposal of $384,692. Well, the increases projected are for salary adjustments, the purchasing of testing materials and supplies. Health Services Regular School. Under this category, you'd find the salaries for the school nurse teacher and the registered nurses, licensed practical nurses, and the other services that are provided through the Health Services program. And the decrease has to do with us scaling back one LPN position. It's a 10-hour-a-week position, and some other small areas within the Health Services department. Co-curricular activities excuse me, I'm going to go down a little further because the co-curricular activities is up. It is up about $2,300, but that's pretty much for a program that is similar to this year. It would have to do with salary adjustments, supplies, materials, and so on. Interscholastic athletic program. The current year's budget is $126,766. You might recall that in late fall, authorization was given to include indoor track and modified B. Both of those were not a part of the 20203 budget. So those were increases to that budget in the late fall. This year's budget proposal started out at $158,000 and was scaled back to $126,542. It includes JV and varsity sports, modified A sports. It does not include modified B sports at this time, nor does it include indoor track. Now, under instruction, the budget goes up $409,830, or 3.6%. And under district transportation, this part of the budget goes up very little, in the 1% range. I think everybody's familiar with what is involved in the district transportation program. We have about 40 buses on the road daily, and this area of the budget pays for the salaries of the bus drivers, the mechanics, the supervisor, and the cost of operating the transportation program here at school, and it increases about 1% for the coming year. I will tell you, as I've looked at this for years and years and years, the transportation budgets remain 5 to 6% as a part of our overall budget, and it hasn't changed for years and years. Now, I'll move on to other community services. This is the census and attendance area. Nothing much noteworthy in this area except to tell you that this budget goes up about $55, or less than 1%. Undistributed. This is a significant part of the budget. Under employee benefits, you'll note the current year's budget is $3,487,409. Proposed for next year, $3,896,452, or an 11.7% increase. In dollars, that's $409,043. Now, the increases are in the following areas. Employee retirement is up. This would be, there are two retirement systems within the school district. One is called the teacher's retirement system, and the rate has not increased in that system for the coming year. The non-instructional employees, all classes, belong to the employees' retirement system, and there has been a significant increase proposed for next year, and that is why that covers part of the reason for the increase of $409,000. The other is about a 13% increase in health insurance costs looking forward. So those are the two major factors in why that area of the budget is increasing 11.7%. Then you have debt service, principal, and interest, and maybe I'll talk about those collectively. We have had financing on two major reconstruction programs in the last decade. First was the 1992 construction program and reconstruction rehabilitation program. That was an $11 million program. And then in 1998, we undertook and completed a $4.2 million technology program that included a new track, tennis courts, security, 3 new classrooms, and over $1 million worth of improvements in the area of computers and technology for instruction. So those programs being underway in the debt service online and being paid back on an annual basis, we found ourselves in a situation last year where the state was indicating to us that they would not be able to pay the state aid to us at the same level on our debt service as they had in the past. So we were faced with either picking up the additional cost locally or refinancing, which is what hundreds and hundreds of school districts across the state did. They call it advance refunding. And so what that did was close the gap between the amount of principal and interest we pay every year and the aid back from the state on the debt service paid. So the increase there, to make a long story short, that's what these two areas are describing, is $48,680, or about a 3.9% increase. There's one other component to this, and that is the financing of school buses. We have been financing our school buses the last several years because our fleet has been getting older and older, and we are making wonderful progress in addressing this issue. So we have been financing the school buses. We do get 78% aid back on the school buses, and we've been financing those. The rates are very, very low, and so that is all included in that in that debt service area as well. So, undistributed summary. The current year's budget, $5,204,777. It increases by $389,618 to $5,594,395. That's a 7.4% increase in that area. Now, school tax information. It's probably best that we chat about that now, and that hopefully will answer a number of the questions that we started chatting about earlier. For 2002-2003, the rates are as shown, $22.73. And for those that may be new to the district, there are 4 towns that make up the Northeastern Clinton Central School District: Altona, Champlain, Chazy, and Moores. Now, not all of the town might be in the school district. Part of a town could be in our district, for example, Chazy. Part of it's in the Northeastern Clinton Central School District, part of it in the Chazy Central School District. So we're talking about the part that's within the Northeastern Clinton Central School District boundary lines. So, the proposed rate for next year, based on the new assessments, the amount of state aid that we expect to receive, is an increase of 48 cents a thousand, bringing the new rate to an estimated $23.21, or a 2.1% increase over the current year. Now, how might that impact on a $100,000 assessment? There's a box right down below. If you have an assessment of $100,000, then your taxes would increase by $48, as shown within the box here, with $2,273 being the sum that you'd pay on a $100,000 assessment, increase of $48 to $2,321. Now, if you had a $75,000 assessment, the increase would be $36. A $50,000 assessment, $24 increase. And then there's STAR. So we can talk about STAR in the next box. Okay, the STAR program is an initiative of the legislature of the state of New York to try to help local taxpayers with their school tax. And over the last 3 years, they've increased the exemption to $30,000, and it's capped at $30,000 at this time. Unless the legislature effects some change looking ahead. So, if you have a $100,000 assessment, then and a $30,000 exemption, For this year, for 0203, you'd pay $1,591. For next year, you'd pay $1,624.70, which is $33 more on a $100,000 assessment. If the assessment was $75,000, it would be $24.75 increase, and $50,000 assessment, $16.50. And that, we have a little note down at the bottom. Our calculations are based on the fact that we'd be using $16 million in new property assessments of the $23.9 million that have come onto the books effective May 1. Again, subject to grievance day, and subject to these tax certiorari proceedings that we referred to earlier in our conversation. So maybe we'll look at revenues now for a minute. As opening remarks regarding the revenues that support the budget, I should share with you that really the district has two large sources of income or revenue in support of the school budget. State aid is a very large source of revenue or income, and school taxes would be right up there with state aid. Beyond that, there are some small sources of revenue that help to make up and balance the revenue picture for the district. And we'll walk through those very briefly. Real property tax items. The current year's revenue figure was $267,078. For next year, we're looking at an increase to $285,000. The largest portion of revenue from this area are the pilot agreements that are in place in our school district. Payment in lieu of taxes, or pilot agreements. Businesses who elect to move into our school district, working with local community agencies, the Development Corporation, and so on, they're able to get a reduction in the amount of taxes they pay initially for coming into our area and hopefully staying for a while, a good long while. And in lieu of paying taxes, the school district gets consideration, at least in part, for what would otherwise be on the rolls as taxable revenue. So for the first 5 years, and I'm just using this as an example, a new company coming in and taking advantage of this program, which is not a program that is sponsored by the school. It's attributable to other agencies. The school benefits from it. They might not pay any taxes, but make a payment in lieu of taxes for 5 years, and then after 5 years, they might go on the tax rolls at 50%, and then a few more years at 75%, until they get on the tax rolls 100%. So we receive some revenue on an annual basis under this area of the budget, and it amounts to quite a bit of money for us now. It's been growing over the years. It'll be $285,000 for the coming year. Charges for services. Actually, this area will go down a bit looking forward to next year. The current budget is $580,393, and proposed for next year $554,961. The largest amount of income or revenue to the district in this area comes from the approximately 90 Vermont students that attend Northeastern Clinton Central School. They pay, when I say they, the towns that send them to Northeastern Clinton in Vermont pay tuition in the amount of $4,750 for each student attending Northeastern Clinton. Now that tuition rate has been approved for an increase for next year in the sum of $250. So the reason why it's down a little bit from the current year, as we estimate for next year, is that we had a number of special ed students attending Northeastern Clinton, and we'll have fewer services to provide next year. We bill the sending district from Vermont additionally beyond the $4,750 tuition for the special services we provide. And I might also add, we do receive state aid for the Vermont students attending Northeastern Clinton, New York State aid. Use of money and property. You'll see that that area is down just a little bit. We don't have as much money to invest as in prior times, so therefore the interest income would be a little bit less. There is some deferral of state aid that is ongoing, where the state, for example, might owe us some state aid in June. They might not be able to make that payment to us until September. So in some cases, we've had to go and borrow because of that, but also we don't have the surplus funds on hand to invest to earn a little income, interest income for the district. So that's down a little bit over the current year. The next area I'd like to bring to your attention is the area of miscellaneous. It includes refunds of prior year expenditures, gifts and donations, and so on. Now there are two items here that I'd like to call to your attention. The first is we receive a refund from BOCES, from the Clinton, Essex, Warren, Washington BOCES, at the conclusion, or I should say after the conclusion of a school year. What BOCES does is they take a look at the cost of operating each and every one of the 100 or so programs that they operate, and if there's a surplus in each of those funds, or any of those funds, we receive our pro rata share back for that program. It would also be true if they were in the red in that program, and then we would get a bill. But we've never received a bill in all the years that I've ever been here. We've always received a nice refund where it hasn't cost BOCES quite as much to operate as they anticipated when they gave us a figure at the beginning of the year. We're looking forward to getting a refund of $127,500. And also, thanks to the fine work of our office staff, and in particular Sheila Miller, we're going to get some E-rate money back this year. We're hoping for $22,000 under one category and a larger sum in another, but we feel that we can use the sum of $151,000 as revenue coming into the district in this particular area. State sources. State sources includes all kinds of state aid that comes into the school district in a given year. It's basic state aid, BOCES aid, which is different than that refund that I just talked to you about. That's a different thing entirely. Textbook aid, computer software and hardware aid, library loan program aid, building aid, for the reconstruction programs. It also includes such things as excess cost aid. These are the funds that we receive for the special services to students who have disabilities. So we're looking at an increase in revenue from state sources of about $426,243 as we look to next year. This is what the legislature enacted in the override of the governor's proposal. So that's made a huge difference in our projected and estimated tax rates for the coming year. Under federal sources, you see a figure this year and next for $200,000 each. A number of the students that are served in our special education program receive services that are eligible for Medicaid reimbursement, and we do bill for this reimbursement, and it generates a substantial number of dollars in support of our educational programs here at Northeastern. So there's a sum in the revenue picture here of about $200,000. When you look down at the bottom of the page, you can see a total of $11,658,821 in revenue for 02-03, and that increasing to $12,075,054, or about $416,233 increase over the current year. The fund balance, we're estimating the use of about $300,000, which is an increase of about $25,000 over the current year, as a fund balance at the end of June 30, come June 30th of this school year. We will not really know the actual fund balance until about August 1st, but we're projecting the sum of $300,000. That's our best estimate at this time. The tax levy, as shown for 2002-2003, $7,673,089. The increase to $8,212,616, or a $527,000 increase. That's a 6.8% increase. So the revenues are up about 5%, or $985,760 over the current year, where you look at the total line and it shows $19,601,910 for this year and $20,587,670 for 2003-2004. Now there's a little asterisk here. I'll just touch on it for a minute. The trustees of the local libraries have asked for a small increase for the local libraries. That's the Moores Library, the Hamlet of Moores, the Village of Champlain, and the Village of Rouse's Point. And we're going to chat about that in just a few minutes. That proposal goes to the voters for their consideration on June 3rd. And the impact is about if approved, it would be about 5.7 cents a thousand, or on a $100,000 assessment, about $5.70. Okay. Maybe look at enrollment for a moment. Our enrollment has grown slightly since 1997 or 98. Slight increase each year. Now, if you look back to 1990, it's quite an increase, from 1,436 in 1990 to our projected enrollment for the fall of 1,670. This is only an estimate or projection, and we're more interested in looking at the trends in any given year, because you can have events that take place that cause families to move into the district or to move out of the district. So it's the trends that we would look at more seriously. And we'll chat for a minute about registration and qualifications to vote. Now the date has passed for personal registration for this particular vote. If you were on the rolls with Clinton County for any of the other votes, then your name's on the list, and certainly you can vote. But for anybody new into the district, the 27th of May was the deadline. Absentee ballots are available, and you can contact the district clerk should you need an absentee ballot. That's Eileen Dupre at 298-8242. Now, qualifications to vote. You need to be a citizen of the United States, 18 years of age, and you need to be a resident within the Northeastern Clinton Central School District for a period of 30 days, next preceding the meeting at which he or she offers to vote. And now we'll look at the propositions that will be placed before the voters on June 3rd. Well, the first proposition is for the voters to consider is vote on the proposed 2003-2004 school budget in the amount of $20,587,670. We have two terms for which we need to elect board members, and we have term A, a 5-year term, The present incumbent is Michael Inkoviak, and we received 2 petitions, one from Michael Inkoviak and one from Timothy Matat. Then we have an additional seat on the school board, 5 years. It's called Term B. Present incumbent is Arlene Penfield. She was appointed to the board when Tracy DeCoste resigned earlier this year. Now we have 1 petition filed for this seat, Randy R. LeCount. And finally, we have a proposition to increase community library funding. The trustees of the Champlain Free Library, Moores Free Library, and Rouse's Point Dodge Memorial Library have requested an increase in the annual allocation from $6,500 each to $6,800 per library. With voter approval, the estimated tax rate will remain at about 5.8 cents a thousand on assessed value. And finally, the district traditionally hosts 2 informational meetings prior to the annual meeting and vote on the school budget and propositions. The first was held on May 20th at the Moores Elementary School in the cafetorium. And the next opportunity to hear more about the proposed school budget will be Monday evening, June 2nd, 2003 at 7 p.m. in the senior high school auditorium. Then on the following day, Tuesday, June 3rd, there will be the vote on the budget, library proposition, and for members of the to be elected to the Board of Education from 12 noon until 9 p.m. And you can vote in 2 places. There are 2 voting districts here at Northeastern Clinton. In the middle school cafeteria, a small cafeteria on the eastern end of the district, and on the western end of the district at the Moores Elementary School gymnasium. And Calvin, I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to share with you about the proposal.
Okay, we are back in front of the camera, and I promised we'd get back to this, and we got into it off camera, and it still doesn't make any sense to me, so we're not gonna really give an answer to this, because I don't think we can give an answer that's gonna make a lot of sense to the people viewing at home, because the answer doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I'm your average Joe sitting at home right here, that, you know, it just won't make any sense to people, so we're not gonna get back to that. If you have any particular questions about it,
Feel free to give us a call.
Feel free to call and
Yep.
get it answered. I do have a couple questions.
In a nutshell, what they're trying to accomplish, and this again is a state format, is they're trying to reflect what the star savings is.
Yeah, but I don't think they did a good job of it, the way they worded it.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, your star savings, if you have any type of an assessment, the first 30,000 for most of us, the senior citizens, based on their income, can save up to 50,000. But for most of us, we're talking 30,000 on your home. The star savings will be $696.30, and that's what it is in a nutshell. And that's the savings for all of us.
Correct.
Okay. But it doesn't help you if you have a business or whatever, because then the business is not exempt.
That's right.
Okay, I had a couple questions when you were going through it. On the benefits, saw a $409,000 increase. There are 2 categories in there that seem to have the biggest increase. One is health insurance, and I know it's ongoing negotiations all the time, but it's going to have to come to the point where no matter where else you work, you pay a good portion of your health insurance, and I think it's going to have to happen here in the instructional packages here, because you know, that's the real world. Everybody else is doing it. Everybody else is paying parts of more of their health insurance than what's happening here with much of the school district.
I will comment to you that we've made what I consider significant progress in this area in the last few years, and we continue to work on it. And one thing that was brought to my attention, Calvin, that I didn't realize was, the legislature passes mandates in the area of health insurance, not just in education, but in health insurance and many other areas. And there were, I think over 20 mandates statewide for health insurance that were approved in the past year or two. So that has a tendency to drive up the cost of health insurance also.
Yes, and we just saw some big settlements, and every time the doctor gets sued for $30 million, we're paying for it. So the state is looking at capping the settlements, and that would help, but that's nothing to do with copay on health
Yeah,
insurance.
well, we're making
which is,
some-
which
we are
is a
making
fact
s-
of life wherever
Yes,
people work.
and we're making some progress on that. There's a realization that has to be a part of the program these days.
Okay, the other thing was the retirement, and I think there's going to be some misconceptions out there in the general public when you say you're throwing in hundreds of $1,000s to make up for what was lost in the stock market. Well, this isn't a 401k type of thing where people have contributed and lost their money, and the state, or in this case, the local taxpayer is bailing them out. This is the amount that these employees, secretaries, bus drivers, whatever, they have a retirement plan that is supposed to pay X number of dollars upon retirement. And the fund that is funding that, when it does well, we don't put much into it.
Correct.
When it doesn't do well, the taxpayer has to make up the difference.
Have to put a little more into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a program where the individual employees, they contribute part of their salary toward their own retirement. For certain classes of employees, for at least 10 years of their employment, they participate and contribute to their own retirement. In essence here, with 9/11, there was a further turn down in the economy, and the state system, the employees' retirement system, have not accrued the interest on their revenues and so on, so they have to increase the rate, like you just alluded to.
Yeah, so this is not extra that the employees are throwing in and lost money on. This
No.
is their basic retirement plan.
That is correct, and it's a state system.
Yeah. Okay, one of the problems, I think, more so this year than in past years, when people vote no on a budget, generally you assume because they didn't want it to be that high. This year, I know, I was at one board meeting, and Tim Matot said he was circulating a petition that said if there's any cuts, you want people to vote no. Was that petition ever presented to the board, or? I don't remember seeing anything about it
I'd have
since
to
then.
check with the clerk.
Yeah.
I'm
So there,
not aware of it, but I'd have to check with the clerk.
I'm not sure how many people signed that petition that if there were any cuts, they were going to vote no. But I'm sure there's going to be some people in the Champlain Elementary District who are going to vote no on it because their school is being closed. Would it be safe to say that my feeling from listening to the board members, that if this budget is voted down, that it's not going to increase, they're not going to add programs that they've taken out, that if they did present another budget, it would be less programs, not increasing. So anybody who's voting no because,
They're thinking that it might be a higher
Yeah.
budget?
yeah, it isn't going
Well,
to, I don't think it's going to go that direction.
I cannot speak for the school
Right.
board, okay, that's not my role. I haven't heard any conversations to the effect that we would increase the budget. We do have a very high tax rate, and there's a realization of that. And the closing of the Champlain Elementary School, although regrettable, really was necessary to ensure that we could continue for all 1,660 students a quality educational program. And I did go to a meeting over at the Champlain Elementary School in the last week or 10 days to discuss that in further detail with them, with some of the parents of the children that attend that school. And we're doing a lot of planning for next year as well. So our goal is to make sure each of the children in each of our schools, they all get an excellent educational program. And with a high tax rate, we really, something had to be done.
Yes, because even with the extra money that the legislative body of the state gave to the school districts when they overrid Governor Pataki's vote, even with that, there's an increase in the taxes. So if you took that money out or took that money and spent it, there would be a huge tax increase.
This is true, and we also, as we've noted at the budget development meetings, we need to be positioning ourselves for the next school year too. It's one thing to plan for 2003 and 2004, but we need to be looking forward. And I think we heard that clearly from people who attended some of the budget sessions too, that taxes are high and we have to do whatever is possible to limit the increase in taxes, and we're working very hard to do that.
You just use that word, increase in taxes. Now, the estimated tax increase, according to this sheet we have right here, is 2.1%. But that's 2.1% if your assessment remained exactly the same as it was last year.
That's
and
true.
As you know, we've all had a reevaluation, and I don't know what the percentage is. I know in my particular case, I think we went up 4,000. So we've already got a percent of increase already. And just to use figures, off camera, I figured out a $50,000 assessment. If their assessment went up 5,000, is now it's 55,000. Just on the reassessment, their taxes will go up $116 after STAR, and their total taxes will increase from last year when they paid $454 to $580. So. In some cases, it's going to be substantially higher than the 2.1%.
So that would be a $130 approximate increase.
Right. In that particular case. Now, percentage-wise, a $5,000 increase if you had a $100,000 home would be a smaller percentage-wise than if you have a $50,000 home.
That's very true.
So, I don't know, the actual increase in what will be raised by taxes is 6.88%.
The levy
Yes.
increases, yes,
6.88%. And I know I was talking to one guy, one member of a school board in the area, not our local one, and he says, as a school board member, he always thought that was a little misleading to say it's going up 2.1% when your assessments went up. He always thought that the people ought to be given the figure of 6.88 and not the 2.1. And of course, for some people, it will be 2.1. For some people who may have got a decrease in their assessment,
This is true.
it might even go down.
This is true.
But on the whole, on the average, the 6.88 is probably not accurate because in there you've also got some brand new buildings that weren't there a year ago. But
Of course, another dimension to it also is with more assessments, then it should distribute more evenly the amount of taxes that people pay. Okay? So it's a fair distribution, assuming that everybody is where they should be with their assessments. Of course, that's an area of expertise for someone else, but there are a lot of different ways to look at it. It's a very difficult thing for the school to use anything other than the existing rate and the new rate because we're not privy to everybody's individual situation. So that's why we do it that way.
right. You know, if somebody put up a new garage or whatever, well, that's an increase in their assessment because they've improved their thing. But
Sure.
for the people who didn't drive a nail anywhere, some of them also went up.
Yes, they did, some significantly.
Yes.
And again, that's a question for the assessors and so on, but the theory behind it is that everybody should be at market value. And interestingly enough, I'm told that here in the northern tier that a lot of the homes are selling at a price that's higher than one would expect. So that has something to do with this also.
Yes. But again, my point was that the actual increase in the taxes on the whole will be somewhere in the 6.5% increase rather than the 2.1 on the average on the whole.
Are you talking about the tax levy?
Tax levy, yes.
The tax levy is increase of 6.8%.
And I'm talking about the person paying the taxes. On
It
the
all
whole,
depends.
they're gonna average out to about 6.5,
Well,
6.5%. That's my figure.
That's your thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you're happy with the 2.1%?
Well, I think that we have to use that because we're comparing the current rate to the new rate. That's what
Right.
we're doing.
Yeah.
But certainly, we'd be the first to say you need to look at your own situation. If your house was revalued, then obviously your taxes could go up more than 2.1% based on your own individual situation.
Right. Okay, now you did want to
Yes.
talk about contingency and a couple of items?
Briefly, if you have any questions, Calvin, as we started the program, we did talk a little bit about, I think, contingent budget. The way the state law works at this time, you present a budget to the voters. They approve or disapprove of the budget. You have one more opportunity to go back to the community, and that budget could be the same budget, it could be a smaller budget, it could, in theory, be a larger budget. If, for example, you had growth unexpected and so on. But normally, it would be a smaller budget. So the voters have that opportunity one more time, that additional time. If the budget was not passed at the second try, then you must go to a contingent budget, and a whole set of rules come into play. The budget can go up, the cost of living, which this year is 1.62%, plus 20% of that, so up to about 1.92. Now, there's some items that are not considered in that 1.92, so the actual increase might be a little over 2% increase in the budget, okay? So if that came to pass, we would have to make further cuts in the amount of $576,154, okay? And we'd be looking at non-mandated areas where we could cut the budget back to meet the state requirements of a little over 2% increase in the budget, okay? So the areas that would likely be affected would be equipment, cutting that about $16,315. Probably kindergarten would not be a part of our regular program. It's non-mandated, and that would be a savings of $213,477. It's likely the entire sports program would not be able to operate in order to save the $576,000, and that would be probably a cut of $147,000, including the benefits associated with it. Closing the pool, that would affect staff and the pool closure itself, $93,000. Entire summer school, which we have a limited one in the budget, $30,800 savings. Driver education would have to be eliminated, $19,233 savings. Drug and alcohol counseling, we'd lose that program at $16,742. After school detention, that would not be available, and that's a $15,000 program. We'd be reducing our custodial force by a half of a worker at $12,175. And we would not be able to offer field trips, a savings of $6,600, and band trips at $4,400. So that's what it would take to save the $576,000. Now,
That's if the budget were voted down and it ended up going to a contingency.
yes, we would only be able to increase the size of the budget by about 2%, and we would have to make some very serious cuts in order to stay within the state requirements for a contingent budget.
Okay. Anything else?
I think from my perspective, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come over, as you have for many years now. I'm not sure how many, but over a decade that we've been doing this. And I want to thank the voters who came out to the 10 or 12 budget hearings that we've had, the budget development workshops. I want to thank them very much for the time and their input, and as well as the staff. Thank our Board of Education as well. And we hope that the voters will come to the polls on June 3rd and consider the propositions that will be placed before them at that time. So I thank you again, Calvin, for coming over here this afternoon and helping us explain to the community a very complex budget process and budget proposal.
And I want everybody to know that Chris is retiring this year, so I have offered to come next year, run the camera, and let him ask the questions of the new superintendent. But I don't think that's going to happen. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Calvin.